In the year 1521 BC, the Aztecs had finally met their match after not being challenged for so long. It was the year 1519 when the famous Spanish conqueror Herman Cortes and his army arrived on the Gulf of Mexico. He came with one goal in mind: to conquer the Aztecs and prove that he was one of the greatest conquerors the world had ever seen. Cortes had the advantage of being from Europe, a place with more food, animals, and most dangerous of all for the Aztecs, viruses. According to Jared Diamond's claim, due to the accident of geography, some groups had access to better crops and more useful domesticatable animals. With this in mind, the grade I would give the Aztecs and Mayans would be a C+. Now, let's get into the details. Starting from the beginning, there were two big civilizations in North America, which came one after the other. The older one being the Mayans, who were believed to have first appeared in 2600 BCE, while the Aztecs, who we will get into later, first appeared around the 13th century. Between the years 300 CE to 1000 AD, the Mayans had little to no domesticated animals for labor, but did have domesticated animals that served other purposes, some of which included turkeys, which were a good food source and could breed with one another to make more, stingless bees, which pollinate flowers and creates honey, and more. Both the Aztecs and the Mayans had similar taste in fruits and techniques of how to grow them. The most common plant-based foods they grew were corn and beans, which they would also use to make tortillas that are still eaten today. Other vegetables grown by the Aztecs and Mayans were onions, tomatoes, and potatoes. The only tool they needed to farm their crops was a flint knife made of stone. Because of the unexpected terrain of the swampy and wet soil of North America, the Aztecs and Mayans have also come up with new technologies and ideas to solve these problems. One idea is called swidden agriculture, where the Mayans would burn the land full of bad soil, then wait 5 years for the soil to heal, and then it would be fit for agriculture. Another farming technique used by the Mayans was called raised bed farming. For this technique, they actually used their swampy and wet environment to their advantage. They would place dirt and other minerals in a type of box, then they would place the crops they intended to grow within the box as well. The box would be around 2 feet so it wouldn't get flooded. A big positive with this would be that they didn't have to water the crops themselves because the wet, swampy atmosphere would do it for them. As great as all of these Aztec and Mayan technologies in agriculture are, there is also an aspect of Aztec and Mayan society that is negative. This would be the fact that they are very isolated from the rest of the world. As I said before, the Aztecs and Mayans were located in North America, specifically modern-day Mexico. Being isolated from the rest of the world isn't good because it was close to impossible to make trades with other countries with supplies that could benefit and evolve their civilization. One example being Europe, which is 6,000 miles away. The Mayans and Aztecs wouldn't just make tools to help with farming, but would also make tools to help during battle. They made weapons like arrows and spears using obsidian. Obsidian was a natural material usually found by the volcanoes on the Pacific coast of the Maya area. These weapons were made to improve animal hunting accuracy and be used against other threatening humans. Besides agricultural technology, the Mayans also embraced new agricultural inventions, one of which being the bridge. The Mayans used to get over large canyons and water banks. One example of this was the Mayan city of Yaxchilan, which was surrounded by water for 6 months each year. The people who lived in the city decided to make a bridge that crossed over to the other side. The idea of the bridge guaranteed that they would be able to come and go whenever they pleased. Fun fact, this bridge was slightly than the Cinderella Tower in Disney World, if you held it up vertically. The Mayans also invented hydraulic cement used on their buildings to make high-rise cities, which they were known for. The cement also helped the Mayan structures last for centuries unharmed and helped against the natural environment, including tornadoes, earthquakes, and floods, which all do nothing to the cement made structures. One perk of being isolated from other humans is that you don't get as many diseases, but when other humans do show up, then it becomes a disadvantage. One popular theory that could explain the sudden disappearance of most Aztec people was the smallpox pandemic, which was believed to have started in Europe, and with other humans traveling to North America, where the Aztecs lived, it was believed to have been contagious to them more than people from Europe because they have already been exposed to the virus. Ironically, the virus was spread through the popular Aztec and Mayan crop of corn. Now going back to the battle where it all ended. One point to mention was that 20,000 Aztec people defected from the Aztec nation because they were unhappy with the government. Instead, these people decided to join the Spanish in conquering the Aztecs. 20,000 people isn't a small amount, especially for that time period. That's more people than the capacity of the Staples Center. A little while before the Spanish were planning on conquering the capital city of the Aztecs, Tenochtitlan, the leader of the Aztecs, invited Cortez to a peaceful meeting. Again, unsurprisingly, he declined. The year was now 1521, and the Aztecs and Spanish were to battle for their lives. This was it. This was the defining moment in Aztec history. If they lost, they would be extinct, but if they won, they would live to fight another day. The battle began, with both sides clashing swords and weapons, but at the end of the day, the Spanish were on top. Only 450 Spanish soldiers passed, nothing compared to the 100,000 dead Aztecs. Cortez had done it. He had gained the honor and praise of being one of the greatest conquerors of all time. After considering all of the information in hand, North America has both its advantages and disadvantages, but I have decided to give the land a luck rating, which takes into account resources, crops, animals, diseases, technology, and geographical factors. I have decided to give it a grade of C+ for having good crops, not too many diseases, good technologies, and more. But what stopped me from giving it a higher grade was its lack of domesticated animals, which do physical labor, its isolation from the rest of the world, which has shown by how the Aztecs were so unprepared to fight the Spanish, and the fact that their tools were less advanced than other civilizations. In conclusion, North America isn't even close to being the luckiest when it comes to geographical factors, but there could always be worse.